Welcome to the Love Your Life and Yourself podcast, the weekly show where science meets soul and mom chaos meets mind mastery. You're not just a mom. You're a woman with dreams, a career, a body that needs care, and a soul that craves more. This podcast is your permission slip to stop surviving and start thriving in motherhood, health, career, and stress resilience. I'm your host, Dr. Ashley Rath, and every week we bring you actionable insights and transformative conversations to help you create a life you truly love. From evidence-based wellness strategies to authentic self-discovery, we'll explore what it takes to thrive through expert interviews and real unfiltered stories. Let's dive into today's episode. Today's guest is Dr. Justin Moseley, also known as the Mindset Doctor, a chiropractor turned transformational speaker and coach. After a near-death accident in 2018, he shifted from running a thriving clinic to helping people worldwide rewire how they think, lead, and live. So here's a two-time TEDx speaker and the host of the Mindset Doctor podcast. Justin, welcome to the show.
Yeah, Dr. Ashley, thanks for having me. I'm excited about this.
Yeah, me too. I'm super excited. So some people maybe haven't heard your TEDx talks. So I just like to start with who are you? Start from the beginning, where you are at now. How'd you get where you are now? Give us the rundown.
All right. So I'm Dr. Justin Mosley. I'm a chiropractor by trade. My wife's a chiropractor as well. We have a clinic outside of Nashville, Tennessee. And we opened our practice in 2012 and just built a great family practice, helping people, making a difference. Fast forward to 2018, practice was booming, life was great, marriage was great, traveling with my wife, doing the things. And then August 2018, I went on a men's retreat and we went whitewater rafting. And it was just a freak accident. We hit some class 5 rapids and I was sitting on the back of a raft and the raft tipped over and I got trapped underneath the rapid itself. And the rapid pushed me underwater. And I still remember the sound of my helmet scraping down the rocks as I was being pushed under. And I got wedged between two rocks. And the last thing I remember thinking is, I'm not coming back up. And I was trapped underwater. I lost consciousness and everything went black. And then everything went bright white. And it was the most peaceful, serene feeling I'd ever felt. And I don't know how long that lasted, but thankfully I heard a voice that said, wake up. And I came back to consciousness and I was trapped underwater, wedged between those rocks. And I tried to push and I didn't budge. And I kept pushing and pushing. And then thankfully, my adrenaline kicked in. I was able to push hard enough. I broke one of the buckles on my life jacket that was trapped underneath one of the rocks, floated to the top, gasped for breath, got swept down the river. And at that point, I was rocked. Like, what just happened? And we all question our purpose in life at some point. Like, why are we here? Like, what's the purpose to all that? And for me, after that, I asked a different question. Instead of why am I here? I said, why am I still here? Because things could have been different in that moment. Like, what if I didn't hear wake up? Or what if I wasn't strong enough to break free? And unfortunately, sometimes we wait for a rock bottom moment or near-death accident, a car wreck, a loss of a loved one before we actually contemplate and make a change in our life. But I'm here to tell you, you don't need a near-death accident. You don't need a rock bottom moment in order to change. You're listening right now. You can ask yourself the same question I asked myself. Why are you still here? Because life is a gift. You didn't have to wake up today, but you did. And there's air in your lungs. Your heart is beating right now. You woke up today for a reason. So answer that question for yourself. Why are you still here? And for me, one of the biggest lessons I got from all that was I had gotten comfortable because practice was good and life was good, but I was helping people and making a difference locally, but I knew God had called me to make a bigger impact. So for me, I was like, if I truly want to step into the calling that God has on my life, I need to exchange my comfort for my calling. So for there, I just went on, I processed that for a little while. So I don't know what it looks like, but I know God's called me to go bigger. So I started just putting out content, stuff that I was passionate about, mindset, leadership, personal development, stuff that helped me along the way. I was like, I just want to help other people. And Doc, I don't know if you've ever felt this, but when I first put myself out there, I was like, I don't know if anybody's going to listen. I'm just going to put it out there. Yep. And the first of 2020, January 2020, I started a Facebook group. And I started putting out content, going live in there. And that group grew to 1,000 people in the first month. So I was like,
Wow.
all right, cool. People are
Yeah.
here. And they just kept wanting more. And that led to me leading mastermind retreats and mastermind groups, doing coaching and then speaking all over, and led to me doing my first TED Talk in 2022 on the lessons I learned from my near death accident. And then fast forward just last year, I did my second TED Talk on how I overcame my fear of public speaking. Because for me, I had a tremendous fear of speaking most of my life. So I shared lessons on how I overcame the fear of public speaking, and we're nearing 1 million views on that talk. So I'm excited about
Wow.
that.
That's
Yeah.
fantastic.
So I know there's a lot right there. We can unpack and take this
Yeah,
whatever direction you want.
let's unpack that. I think stories are so powerful, and I think when people hear a story, it just connects them. Not that everyone has necessarily a near death experience,
Yeah,
but you realize that everyone has their shit that they go through, and
absolutely. Yeah,
um, when you start to hear a personal story like that, it's like, okay,
yeah,
let's dig a little bit more and how can I relate to that? But let me ask you this. So before your accident, you had this like pivotal moment of like stake in the ground. But was there anything before the accident that kind of was brewing that maybe you kind of pushed aside a little bit and like that was the tipping point or the threshold where you were like, "Gosh, I gotta change something," because everything was good, and I
right.
think that's, like, you don't necessarily have to hit rock bottom to necessarily change, and so, were there
Mhm.
any nuggets or things nudging you before the accident that you just kind of ignored?
Yeah, I looked up to people like Tony Robbins. I read my first Tony Robbins book when I was 16. And that's what shifted for me because I struggled with self-esteem and self-image, a lot of different things. So I was like, I want to change my life. And he really opened me up to the idea that if you change your mind, you can change your life. So
Mm,
I went on, I
mhm,
started reading 100 books a year, just consuming a bunch of knowledge. And I wanted to share that, but I just kind of kept it private because I was like, nope, I'm just doing my clinic. The clinic is the thing. And like you said, I mean, we had success. Like we had a successful clinic. I could have just done that and everything would have been great. But the near death accident is what woke me up to no, there's more here. And one of the concepts I like to share is expanding your container. And it comes down to your mindset. A lot of times, if I had a 20-ounce bottle of water right here, it only holds 20 ounces of water. I can pour more in and it's just going to overflow. It only holds 20 ounces. But for those watching, now I'm holding a 40-ounce container. So the bigger container you get can hold more. The capacity to what we believe is possible is more. And for me, I had for a long time just had this 20-ounce bottle. Like that's what I thought was possible. We made the pinnacle of what we can achieve right now. But then I expanded. Then I got the 40-ounce. Then I got a gallon container. And then I got a fish tank size container, which was me expanding my mind to what's possible. And for me, what drives me, and it goes back to the near death accident, is I contemplated like, if this was it, if it would have all ended in that moment, is this the legacy you want to leave?
mm,
And the answer was no.
mm,
And it still drives me to this day. Like, I don't want to get to the end of my life and realize I could have done more. I could have helped more people and I could have made a bigger impact. Like, that still drives me to this day. So for me, I'm always looking at where am I thinking too small? Where am I trapping myself into this small container? How can I start to think bigger? And one of the best ways to do that is surround yourself with people that are thinking bigger because a lot of times they see things that you can't. You can learn from them. And a lot of times you realize they're not much different than you. They just took a little step differently. They believed differently, and you can start borrowing their belief and doing bigger things. But that accident definitely helped me. That was the catalyst of like open my mind to, you know what? Yes, things are successful, but there's more that's available to me.
mm. That's powerful, and I think, you made a choice after that accident that some people don't make of they get a second chance or they hit rock bottom or they are successful but kind of complacent. So what do you think's kind of surprising about or people get wrong about the second chance stories
Mm.
like you that don't make that choice?
Yeah, and that's life is about choices. And us being in the health space, an unfortunate statistic, like they showed that people survive the widowmaker heart attack. That the one that's supposed to take you out, supposed to kill you, but
Mhm.
people that survive it. The doctors will tell them you have to change your lifestyle or you're going to die. You're going to have another heart attack. It's going to be over. But studies have shown over 90% of the people that are told that don't change their lifestyle. And that's unfortunate. It's like you're at the end of your life here. Like, why would you not change and do something different? And a big reason for that is because change is hard. We get comfortable in the way things are. It's easier to eat junk food and watch TV and not exercise. And that's easier than it is to eat healthy and go to the gym and get adjusted and do all the things you need to do. So unfortunately, people aren't willing to do the hard things. And it really comes down to choose your hard. Either you do the things that are hard in the short term, but they're going to give you long-term results, or you can do what's easy now in exchange for something coming hard later, whether it's a diagnosis, something else that happens, depression, anxiety, all the things that come up from being lazy and not making the hard choices in the moment. And one of my mentors, I referenced him, Rory Vaden. I referenced him in my TED talk, but he's got a saying that's you want to endure the short term sacrifice for the long term benefit, and that's what it comes down to. It's like you're choosing your heart. I'm going to do the things today that are a choice. I can choose, and health is easy because I could choose to go to the gym or I could choose to stay home. I could choose to eat pizza or I could choose to eat the chicken breast. It's all the choices we make. And the one choice of not going to the gym is not going to make a difference. But it's those choices over time. And all of a sudden, 6 months go by and you haven't gone to the gym. And then 6 years have gone by and you haven't gone to the gym. So really chunking it down to what are the daily choices that I can make that are going to lead to a better result. And for me, but then backtracking even further, it starts with have to have a vision for it in the beginning, because the vision is what it all comes down to. And unfortunately, there's two questions I ask people all the time. Number one is the hardest one to answer is what do you want? Most people don't have a clear vision of what they want. When you ask them what they want, a lot of times they tell you all the things they don't want. I don't want to work these hours. I don't want to live in this and all the things. I don't want this. They're not very clear on what they do want. So you got to start there, figure out what's the vision? What do I want? And then the second question, when you know that, is who do I need to become in order to achieve that? And again, back to health. If there's a health goal, who do you need to become? I need to become someone who doesn't skip the gym, who does choose to eat the right things. And you start to create an image in your mind of what does that person look like that I need to become? And then I hold myself to that standard and I start enacting the habits that are going to actually make me that person that I need to become along the way.
Hmm. Yeah. I love that because I just actually had Barbara Eaton on the
Yeah.
podcast a couple episodes before you, and she just launched a book. It's called Two
Mm.
Streets Named Hard, and her whole
That's
concept
good.
is about that. Like there are two streets, both of them are hard, but one's just hard right in the moment, that instant gratification or the gratification down the road. And so, which hard do you want? And
Mhm.
both streets are named hard. It's just a little bit either short term or long term and what that looks like. So
Absolutely.
I think it's super powerful. And it's all of the mind, like you're called the mindset doctor. And I think these concepts are simple, but yet hard, right? They're hard to
Right.
implement because it's a different way to think. It's a different way to perceive the
Yep.
environment that's already around you.
Yeah.
So Um, next up, I'm curious. So after you came like out of your near-death experience, was there any unexpected side effects or beliefs, habits, or even like weird cravings? Because I know some people after they come out of like they saw the light or,
Yeah.
etc., they have some weird maybe personality changes or weird things happen. Did anything like that happen to you?
I was in shock for quite a while. So that was kind of, and the thing is, like, people ask me too, like, would you ever go back whitewater rafting? And I actually finished that trip, like, because we were kind of midway and I ended up finishing it anyways. And I spoke at the SFM live event a year or two ago, and they went whitewater rafting. So I went and did that then too. So I had no fear of that. But the shock afterwards, but for me, it was just that introspection, like going internally. And then, because I think it comes down to the mindset, like you said, because a lot of times people look at life is happening to me, not for me. And for me, I have the mindset that life's happening for me. And I actually look at different levels. So number one, if you're thinking life's happening to me, we got to shift that. Life's not happening to you, it's happening for you. Any experience you have, it's happening for a reason. But then when you can move past that, it's not only happening to you, it's happening for you, but then it's happening by you. When you
Mm,
realize it's happening by you, the things that you're experiencing in your life come down to your thoughts, your choices, the actions you're taking are creating your life experience. So life's not happening to you, it's happening for you, it's happening by you, and then it's happening through you. So not only do your choices and your actions affect you, it affects everyone around you too. So for me, when I went through that experience, I kind of went through those levels. I was like, okay, it's not happening to me, it's happening for a reason. So then I started contemplating, well, why? What can I use this to help make an impact in someone else's life? So as I started processing that, it opened my mind to it's bigger. It's bigger than just making a difference in my local community. I've got an opportunity to make a difference around the world. It's so cool. Fast forward years from that was just my TED talk. I saw somebody commented just the other day, I'm watching from Nigeria. Like, how crazy is that? Somebody in
that's
Nigeria is
wild.
hearing my talk. So
Yeah.
that's cool. You never know the impact you can make.
Did walk me through after that accident. So obviously you survived. You got at the end of the river. What was it like coming home? Like obviously I'm assuming you told your wife maybe before you got home like, "Hey, I almost died." um
So actually, I
but
didn't because
oh,
I
you
was
did
still
it.
in shock and I didn't want her to worry either. So I was
Yeah.
still in shock. And so we were at a men's retreat. We drove home. So even like when I came out of the water, my shins were bleeding. I was missing a shoe. Somehow I lost a shoe along the way. So it's like I was being roughed up by the rocks as I was
Yeah.
getting pushed through these rapids. But as so in the men's retreat, we went back to the church, and that's where my wife picked me up when we got back there. And she could just tell I was real quiet. And I was limping around because my knee had hurt, my ankle, and she could just tell something was off. And it took me like a full day to even like really process, like, okay, what
Mm.
happened? And how do I say it? Hey, I almost just died the other day. So it did take me a minute to figure out, okay, I even myself to come to grips with what just happened. And then I told her about it. Um, but yeah, it was, I didn't talk to anybody at first, really. I was just like, man, what happened? And honestly, so that was 2018. It took a couple years. I didn't even really talk about that. Even when I started putting
Interesting.
out content and I was on podcast, I wasn't sharing that story until I was on a show here. There's a lady called, her name's Devin O'Day. She was like a radio show host in Nashville for years. Like she's like famous in Nashville. And she had me on her show and I told the story about the near death accident and exchanging your comfort for your calling. And she started crying in the middle of my story. And I was
Mhm.
like, wow, more people need to hear this. And I think it goes back to what you said earlier, because that's the main premise of this second TED talk that I have is everyone's got a message to share.
Yeah.
Because there was a time when I didn't believe I had a story. And I think a lot of people resonate with that. Well, I don't have a story to tell. I didn't have a near death accident. I didn't have this or that. Well, everybody's got a message to share. And one thing that helped me was my mentor, Rory Vaden. He said, you are perfectly positioned to serve the person you once were.
Mm.
So think about that. There's things you've
Mhm.
been through in the past. There's challenges you faced, obstacles you've overcome. There's lessons you've learned along the way that somebody else is going through what you went through before. You can take your lessons and help that person. So that's when it gave me the freedom to start sharing my story and lessons that I'd learned, which is why my first TED talk was lessons I learned from my near death accident. And then I started speaking all over, and people would reach out to me and be like, that's so awesome. You get to speak. I wish I could do that. It just comes so naturally to you. And I was like, every person, I was like, wait. This is not natural. It goes all the way to from second grade. I remember that was my first time speaking in front of people and getting nervous and being laughed at, all the way through college when I had a panic attack during a speech and further anchored into my mind, you're not a speaker. You need to be quiet. Nobody wants to hear from you. I had all those doubts and beliefs, but I knew that I had to overcome my fear of public speaking if I truly wanted to make an impact in the world. So, one, realizing you have a message. There's a story inside of you the world is waiting to hear. And I hope if you're listening, that'll hit you. And you'll actually start thinking, what is my story? Because your story, those things that you've been through will speak to someone else. You look at Dr. Ashley here, she's able to write a book. Why? Because she's got a story inside of her that people need to hear. And I believe everybody has that.
I have such a similar story with public speaking, and here now we both have podcasts, and um, it's just wild. I remember I was actually in chiropractic school. I made it all the way through chiropractic school, and I very much dislike public speaking. I would get
Mm.
like the
Oh,
red,
yeah.
like rashy neck
Oh,
and
yeah.
blotchy face, and I was in chiropractic school, and it was a business class, and we had 5 questions that we were gonna get asked one of them, and we had to go in
Mhm.
front of our class. Class was like 150 people, and I
Yeah.
knew these people, like, we had been with them for the last 3 years of chiro school,
Right.
and I have no idea what the questions were, but my question got called, and it was my turn to go up, and I just froze. I froze
Mm.
up there, and I I don't remember what I said. I said something,
Yeah.
and I went back that day. I remember going back to the house, and I was so embarrassed. No one said anything to me, of course. But we had a pretty respectful class, but I was
Yeah.
so embarrassed. And I made a vow to myself that day that that would never happen again,
Mm. Yeah.
because I was like, if I want to become a chiropractor and run a business one day, which I always wanted to run my own business, I was like,
Mhm.
I need to learn how to speak. And
Yeah.
I did. Like, and
Yeah.
was it easy? No. I started speaking in front of one person at like, a dinner talk for the office, and then maybe two, and then it was 5 or 20.
Yeah.
And now I get paid to speak on stages. And
Yep.
it's just wild because people say, "How can you do that?" And I say have the same thing. I did not start here. Like,
Right.
I started fumbling and fearful, and it was kind of that, I guess you could say, rock bottom moment of like, I don't ever want to experience that again. And
Mm.
my message
Yeah.
is bigger than that, and I'm not gonna let my own
Absolutely.
fears,
Yep.
dictate my impact and,
Absolutely. Yeah. And that was
ability.
the same
So,
driving for me because
yeah.
I was even from college to chiropractic school still was terrified, but I knew, and this is where helps to overcome the fear is make the mission bigger than your fear.
Mm,
And that was the same thing for me is I knew my community needed to hear the message I had about how to get healthy.
yeah.
And then maybe this will speak to people too, because I hope you guys are encouraged to go listen to my TEDx talk, even if you want to be a speaker or not, because there's lessons in there I think will apply to everyone.
They'll be in
But
the show notes, by the way.
awesome, yeah. So I shared a story of one of our first talks. So I get into practice. I'm still trying to overcome this fear of public speaking, but at that point, we did the talk at a church, and there was 200 people in the audience. But I went through my steps to overcome the fear of public speaking, and boom, I went out there, I delivered a talk. And I still remember looking in the audience. There was a guy in the front row, and he ended up hearing the talk. He comes up to me, and he was like, "Dr. Justin, what you just shared, that's exactly what I needed to hear to get my health back." And he told me his story. 65 years old, just came off of quadruple bypass surgery.
Oh,
So yeah, it's a quadruple bypass. And he
yeah.
said when I was laying in the hospital bed, they came and they brought my grandson and put him on my lap. And he
Mhm.
said when I looked at my grandson, I was crying, and I made a promise right there. I'm going to get my health back because I'm going to live to see my grandson grow up.
Oh my
And he said,
gosh.
"What you just shared is exactly what I needed to hear." And so he took action. He actually came to the clinic, became a patient. He got his health back. He went from quadruple bypass surgery to running the Ironman. And he went on to run
Wow.
4 different Ironmans. It's one of the hardest races
Yeah.
and extremely healthy now. And that was years ago. And now watching his grandson grow up. But the point that I'm telling you guys that are listening is if I never would have, one, realized I had a story to tell, if I never overcame my fear of public speaking, I never would have been able to make an impact in his life. And it doesn't even have to be that much of an impact. It could be just putting a smile on somebody's face because
Mhm.
they hear your story and they resonate with you. But there's something inside of you, and that's why I think this TED Talk is doing so well. I mean, it's getting like over 2,000 views a day
Wow.
because I prayed about this topic for 2 years. I asked God, like, "What do you want me to share?" So this is definitely a heart project for me. I want to get this message out there in the world because I do think it's that important, is there's a message inside of you that somebody is waiting to hear.
Mm. And I love that nothing, like, grand has to happen, and that message is still powerful. I mean, I
Exactly.
remember
Yeah.
sharing a story of just me nursing and, losing my shit on my toddler while I'm nursing because 'cause I'm sleep deprived and postpartum and all the
Yeah.
hormones, and Do you know how many times moms have come up to me like, "Oh my gosh, I've been there. Like, it's
Yeah.
okay." And so it's even the mundane, day-to-day things that we go through, it's still part of our story and
Yeah.
can connect and make a difference in people's lives.
Absolutely.
And so
And
I
that's
think
the stuff
that's
that means the most
yeah.
because people want to be seen and heard. So they don't care about you. It's not, and when you're speaking, it's not about you, which is one of my points in public speaking. I used to make it about me. And I would get in my own head of what if they're going to judge me? What if I mess up and say the wrong thing? What if they don't like what I'm wearing or the sound of my voice? All those things played in my head. But then I realized it's not about me. It's
Mm,
about the people in the audience and what I have to deliver that can help them. So I
mhm,
shifted that, and then they're not there to get all these amazing bullet points. Like, no, they're like, how does this relate to my life? So when you're real and the more authentic you can show up, and it might be the nursing story, and I lost my stuff, whatever. That's where people are like, you know what? She gets me. She sees me. She knows what I feel like. That's what they want. They want that human connection, especially these days in an AI world. They
mhm,
want more of these human connection, these
mhm.
real stories. Just be yourself and share what you're going through. That means more to people.
I think that's super powerful. It's no matter what quote stage you're on. Like I think a lot of people they're like, "Well, I don't want to public speak." Okay, like that's okay.
Yep.
But how can you share your story at work? How can you
Yeah.
share your story maybe on, within your family or your relationships or your friends and get vulnerable and I always like say share your shit. Like the
Yep.
more vulnerable we can get, the more we're going to connect and that story is either going to bring comfort or connect in some way to that person listening. And so I
Yeah.
don't think it always has to be this like, there was 200 people in the audience.
For
Yes, we
sure.
can make a big difference there, but we can also in addition to that, you know, on your day-to-day basis like just start sharing yourself, share your heart
Yeah.
and that can trickle
Yeah, and a
just
perfect
like the
example
BJ
of that
Palmer quote.
too. Yeah, and I shared that BJ Palmer quote in my TEDx talk. So if you guys haven't heard this, you never know how far-reaching something you may think, say, or do today can affect the lives of millions tomorrow. And here's a cool example because I did start speaking everywhere. So in 2024, I did 47 speaking engagements. I was
Wow.
traveling almost every week, speaking in different states, sometimes different states in the same week. It was awesome because it was cool. People paid me money. I get to speak, and then this is my heart. I love what I'm doing. But the reality is, I was on the road a lot. Thankfully, my wife was able to travel with me. But you don't have to do all that. You don't have to travel and stress and create new presentations for different groups. You can just pick up your phone and talk. There's people
Mm,
on the other end in social media. Too much social media can be used as a negative thing, but can also be used for good. And that's
mhm,
really how I started. I just picked up my phone and just started talking, telling the stories, telling the lessons I learned, sharing the real shit like you talked about. That's what people care about. You don't have to leave in even the comfort of your own home. You could be walking around your house, you just walk outside, share your heart. And you don't have to
yes.
be on the road. You don't have to get in front of a stage of room full of people.
Mhm,
Just share it and remember, and some people get nervous because they share, oh, think about people watching. Don't think about that. Think about the one person, which is another one of my points in my TED talk. I made it about the one person that could take this information and they apply it to their life could completely be a game changer for them. So that's when you show up, you think like, man, like Ashley shared earlier, what if there's another mom who just needs to have permission? It's okay to lose my shit. So they need to be seen and heard. So that's who, when you're telling that story, just think about that mom that's going through that too, or whatever your story is. Just think about that other person that's going through that. That's who you're talking to, and man, that's going to resonate.
yeah. So much truth. Just truth bombs after truth bombs. I love it. It's you guys got to go listen to his TED Talk. Everything he's saying are wrapped up in a pretty bow because that's what TED Talks do. They are so good. They're one of my favorite. I have a app and you can just like listen to those 10 to 20-minute nuggets and quite powerful. Okay, Justin, what do you want
Mm.
moving forward in the future? What does life look like? I'm gonna
Yeah.
ask you the question that you ask.
Yep. So, and it's so cool. It's actually came full circle for me because I went from running the clinic with my wife to now I'm getting all these opportunities. So I wasn't in the clinic at all for a few years to now I'm still not in the clinic day to day, but everything I've learned from putting myself out there, shooting content, building a personal brand, I'm actually leveraging that to help people back in our clinic. So I'm
Hmm.
putting out content that's local to help people drive people to our clinic so they can get the help that they need. And again, I'm not having to travel and be all over the world. So a lot of the speaking now, I'm saying no to a lot so I can be home more and say yes to the right opportunities, but then using my brand and my presence to build the clinic, like that's been really cool.
That's so neat. That is full circle. And I think there's a powerful message in there of saying no, which
Yeah.
is probably not the easiest thing to do coming off of kind of your tour, I would call it, like your
Oh yeah.
speaking tour. But you want to touch on that?
Yeah, because it's the same thing with the hard. It's easy to say no to the hard things and just do the easy stuff. But what about when you're getting all these awesome opportunities that are really cool?
Mm,
And I do believe there's power in saying yes and showing up. And for a season, like I'm so glad I went through what I did because that's what I wanted. Like that's what I wanted to be a professional speaker, getting paid, traveling all over. And I lived that life. But it also let me know I don't want this long term.
sure.
So it gave me the freedom to say, you know what, you can change your vision. Because the vision, I was like, man, I could do this for years. Like these people are cool and the impact you can make. But then you get in it and you're like, man, it's not really what I thought it was going to be.
Hmm.
So it gave me a new perspective. So then I can shift the goal and be like, you know what? I don't want to continue with that. What does that look like? What's the new vision? So give yourself the freedom. Some people are set on a vision they set 10 years ago and they never even thought about it again. Like you're like, okay, you wake up one day like, "Well, I built something I didn't even want." So always reflect on where you're going. So that kind of brought it back for me. I was like, no, I'm going to say no more so I can say yes to the right things. And it goes back to the hard. There's still hard streets, but I get to actually choose and say, I am going to say yes to this one on purpose and be intentional with it.
Choice. Hard, hard.
All comes down to choice.
If you could have dinner with your pre accident self, what advice or roast would you dish out?
Ooh, I would tell myself then you're holding back. There's so
Mm,
much more potential inside of you that you haven't even realized yet. And even looking back then, if you would have told me then, like one day you're going to be a TEDx speaker or even a two-time TEDx speaker, I would have said there's no way. Because I looked up to people like Simon Sinek, his TEDx talk
mm,
that went viral. He just shared
yep.
start with why, such a simple concept that made a huge impact in my life and so many others. And other people like that I'd watched. And I was like, but for me, still struggling with the fear of public speaking and things like that in my past, I was like, that's never for me. Like I couldn't do that. So, going back to the pre-accident self, I was like, "No, you if you only knew what's possible for you, like, you would think differently, you would take different actions, and you would have different results right now."
Mm. Indeed, you would.
Mhm.
So, the title of the podcast is Love Your Life and Yourself. So, I like to end with this question. If you could give our listeners one piece of advice to love themselves and their life more, what would that be?
So, first off is you are enough.
Mm,
Like, as you are right now, you're enough. You don't have to be something, you don't have to prove your worth and value, you are enough right now where you are. And then I would go back to the conversation we had earlier. There's a message inside of you the world is waiting to hear. And I hope that you realize you are enough. You have a story, and then you go out and you'll share your message with the world.
mm. Thank you, Justin, so much. Where can
Yeah,
we
thank
find you?
you. So Instagram's probably where I'm most active. So at Dr. Justin Mosley, and then my TEDx talk. If you just go to YouTube, obviously you can find it in the show notes here. But YouTube, just put Dr. Justin Mosley TED Talk. It'll come up,
Perfect.
and it's
Thank
called
you so.
"How I Overcame My Fear of Public Speaking."
And then the other one?
The other one is, lessons I learned from my near-death accident.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Justin, for
Yeah,
joining
thank
me.
you. This is great. Thanks.
Yeah, absolutely. Till next time. Thanks for tuning in to Love Your Life and Yourself. I hope today's episode gave you one more tool or one more truth to help you thrive in your health, happiness, and resilience. Remember, loving yourself isn't selfish, it's leadership. And it's the foundation for building a life that actually feels like yours. If this spoke to you, hit that follow button, leave a review, and send it to a friend who needs to hear it. And if you want to dive even deeper, grab a copy of my #1 best-selling book, Love Your Life and Yourself. It's the heart behind this podcast, and it's helped thousands of women step into a life they actually love. You can find it at drashleyrath.com or through the link in the show notes. Until next time, take care of you and keep choosing to love your life and yourself.